Ethan Cole wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned against the sturdy wooden fence of his expansive farm in Willow Creek, Montana. The early morning sun cast a golden hue over the rolling fields, illuminating the rows of vibrant vegetables and the meticulously maintained orchards that had been in his family for generations. At 60 years old, Ethan had the kind of presence that commanded respect without uttering a word. His broad shoulders and weathered hands spoke of decades spent working the land. Yet there was an underlying tension in his eyes, a silent vigilance that belied his tranquil exterior. Willow Creek was the epitome of rural America, a small town where everyone knew each other and life moved at a predictable, unhurried pace. The annual Willow Creek Farmers Market was the heart of the community, a place where neighbors gathered to exchange produce, share stories, and celebrate the bounty of the land. Today, as usual, Ethan was setting up his stall, carefully arranging crates of heirloom tomatoes, crisp lettuce, and freshly picked berries. The market was already buzzing with activity, the scent of freshly baked bread mingling with the earthy aroma of vegetables. "Morning, Ethan," called out Ruth Whitaker, a sprightly 70-year-old with sharp eyes and an even sharper wit. She was one of the first regulars to arrive, always ready with a comment or a question about the best way to store tomatoes. Ethan greeted her with a warm smile, his movements deliberate and precise despite the extra weight he carried, a result of his decision to gain a few pounds after retiring from a vague government job back east. Ruth adjusted her shawl against the crisp morning air. "These tomatoes look particularly fine today, Ethan. Your grandmother would be proud." Ethan chuckled softly, his thick fingers gently positioning each tomato to ensure they were perfectly displayed. "She always believed some things were worth preserving," he replied, his tone casual but his mind already racing with the subtler details of his surroundings. 8 years ago, Ethan had left the high-stakes world of elite military operations behind, adopting the life of a simple farmer to mask his true identity. But old habits die hard, and his training as a Delta Force operative remained as sharp as ever, even hidden beneath the farmer's facade. As Ethan arranged his produce, a familiar rumble echoed off the distant mountains, a sound that sent a flicker of unease through him. Harley-Davidson motorcycles were a common sight, but this morning they were particularly loud, signaling an unusual early arrival. Ethan's heart skipped a beat as 5 sleek bikes pulled into the parking area, their engines throbbing with modified exhaust systems that were characteristic of the Iron Vipers, a notorious motorcycle gang known for their ruthless extortion tactics. Ruth tensed at the sound, her eyes narrowing as she watched the gang approach. "Oh dear, those guys again. Maybe they're just passing through," she whispered, clutching her shopping bag tighter. Ethan remained composed, his friendly smile never wavering. "Maybe," he replied softly, though he knew better. The Iron Vipers had been getting bolder, more aggressive, and Ethan's intelligence reports suggested that something significant was brewing beneath their recent actions. The leader of the gang, Marcus Razor Thompson, dismounted first, his leather jacket emblazoned with the Iron Viper's emblem, a menacing viper coiled around a skull. Behind him rode his inner circle, Sledge, the enforcer with a reputation for his brutal strength, Reaper, a ghost-like scout who moved with unnerving silence, and 2 younger prospects eager to prove themselves. Their presence was a clear attempt to assert dominance over Willow Creek, and Ethan knew this was no ordinary extortion attempt. Razor approached Ethan's stall with a casual arrogance, his boots scuffing deliberately across the pavement. "Morning, Farmer Cole," he sneered, eyeing the produce. "Looks like the locals are having themselves a little vegetable party." Ethan continued arranging his produce, his peripheral vision tracking every movement of the gang members. "Morning, Marcus. Everything looking good today?" Razor's eyes narrowed, a hint of irritation flashing across his face. "We're here for our cut, farmer. Don't think you can hide behind those overalls." Ruth stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "Why don't you go help Mrs. Chun with her flowers? I'm sure she'd appreciate the company." Ethan nodded subtly, his body language calm and non-threatening. "That's a good idea, Ruth. Let's not make a scene." Razor watched Ruth move away, a smirk playing on his lips before turning his attention back to Ethan. "Smart move. Wouldn't want her to see what happens to farmers who don't play nice." Ethan maintained his friendly demeanor, all the while cataloging every detail: the positions of the gang members, the number of civilians nearby, and the potential improvised weapons they might have. Years of training had ingrained in him the ability to remain undetected, blending into the background while assessing threats with surgical precision. As the gang began to ransack nearby stalls, knocking over displays and intimidating other vendors, Ethan's secure phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the message: package moving within 48 hours. With practiced ease, he deleted it, his expression unchanged as he continued his conversation with Ruth. Razor leaned over the display, invading Ethan's personal space. "Maybe we need to teach you a lesson, farmer. Time for some basic economics." Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline but kept his voice steady. "Boys, you hear that? It's just the wind. Maybe you're overreacting." Razor took a step closer, his breath reeking of whiskey and something else, likely amphetamines, making him unpredictable and dangerous. "You're not fooling anyone, Cole. We're here to make sure you pay your dues." Before the situation could escalate further, the distant sound of motorcycles echoed louder as Chief Anderson's patrol car turned onto Market Street, just as Ethan had anticipated. The timing was too perfect, a clear indication that the Iron Vipers were testing the town's response and readiness. Razor's frustration was palpable as he signaled his team to mount their bikes and leave. "This isn't over, farmer. The market's going to learn some hard lessons real soon." As the gang dispersed, Ethan began cleaning up the smashed tomatoes, his mind racing with the implications of their visit. This confrontation was just the beginning, a calculated move to probe the town's defenses and Ethan's capabilities. He knew that the Iron Vipers were part of something much larger, a criminal empire with connections stretching far beyond Willow Creek. Back at his farmhouse, Ethan reviewed his surveillance feeds, noting the patterns and preparing for the inevitable retaliation. The Iron Vipers were becoming bolder, and their actions were in line with the intelligence he had gathered over the past 8 years. They were testing his resolve, but Ethan was ready to dismantle their operations piece by piece, using the very tactics they employed against him. As dusk settled over Willow Creek, Ethan stood on his porch, the weight of his mission heavy on his shoulders. The peaceful facade of the town was about to be shattered, and he was the only one standing between the community and the dark forces that sought to control it. With a deep breath, he made the decision to take the first step in exposing the Iron Vipers and their sinister network, knowing that the path ahead would be fraught with danger but necessary for the greater good. The quiet harvest had only just begun. Ethan Cole stood at the edge of his field, the early morning mist curling around the rows of tomatoes and lettuce he meticulously cultivated. The sun had just begun to peek over the horizon, casting long shadows across Willow Creek and bathing the farm in a soft, golden light. Despite the serene beauty of the landscape, Ethan's mind was anything but calm. The confrontation with Marcus, Razor, Thompson, and the Iron Vipers at the farmer's market replayed in his thoughts, each detail more troubling than the last. After the gang's departure, Ethan retreated to his farmhouse, the weight of his hidden mission pressing heavily upon him. He knew that the Iron Vipers were not acting alone. Their aggression hinted at a deeper, more insidious network pulling the strings behind the scenes. 8 years of intelligence gathering had prepared him for moments like this, but the stakes had never been higher. He moved with purpose, entering his secure office tucked away at the back of the barn. The room was outfitted with state-of-the-art surveillance equipment, monitors displaying feeds from cameras strategically placed throughout the farm and the surrounding areas of Willow Creek. Ethan sat down at his desk, pulling out a hidden tablet from a compartment beneath the surface. The encrypted message he had received that morning now made sense. Package moving within 48 hours. It was a clear indication that the Iron Vipers were gearing up for something significant, something that could endanger not just Ethan, but the entire community he had sworn to protect. He began sifting through his collected intelligence, cross-referencing recent gang activities with known trafficking routes and shipments in the region. Patterns emerged, revealing that Willow Creek was a strategic location for the Blackthorn Syndicate, a shadowy organization involved in large-scale weapons trafficking stretching from Montana to Mexico. The Iron Vipers were merely the syndicate's enforcers, ensuring their operations ran smoothly without interference. Ethan knew he couldn't handle this alone. He needed allies, trustworthy individuals who could help him dismantle the syndicate from within. His first call was to Laura Mitchell, a former intelligence officer who had once served alongside him in covert operations. Laura had retired to Willow Creek a few years ago, seeking the same peace that Ethan now enjoyed, but she had never forgotten her skills or her commitment to justice. The phone rang twice before Laura answered. "Ethan? It's been a long time. What's going on?" "Laura, I need your help," Ethan said, his voice steady but urgent. "The Iron Vipers are part of something much bigger. I believe they're connected to the Blackthorn Syndicate, and we're looking at a major weapons shipment passing through Willow Creek soon." There was a brief pause before Laura responded, her tone shifting to one of concern and determination. "All right, Ethan. I'm in. Let's meet at Jenny's Cafe. It's the best place to talk without drawing attention." Jenny's Cafe was a beloved establishment in Willow Creek, known for its warm atmosphere and delicious pastries. It was also Ethan's designated intelligence hub, a place where he could gather information without raising suspicion. As he drove to the cafe, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat, every passerby a possible enemy. He parked his truck behind the building, noting the placement of 3 unfamiliar vehicles that had arrived earlier that day. Their government plates were poorly disguised, and their antenna configurations didn't match any civilian models he was familiar with. Inside, Jenny Parker greeted him with her usual cheerful demeanor. At 28, she was the youngest member of the town's intelligence network, a tech-savvy journalist who had proven invaluable in uncovering corruption and gathering critical information. Her presence was a stabilizing force, always ready with a cup of strong coffee and a sharp mind. "Ethan, good to see you," Jenny said, pouring him a fresh cup of black coffee. "Laura's already here. Let's get down to business." The 3 of them settled into a corner booth, the large windows providing a clear view of both exits. Ethan explained the situation, laying out the evidence he had gathered over the past 8 years. Laura listened intently, her sharp eyes never leaving his face, while Jenny took diligent notes, her fingers flying over her laptop keyboard. "We need to act fast," Ethan concluded. "If that shipment goes through, it could mean an influx of advanced weaponry into the hands of dangerous criminals. We have to intercept it before it's too late." Laura nodded, her mind already racing with potential strategies. "I can tap into the local communication channels, monitor any suspicious activities around the shipment route. Jenny, you can help me with the surveillance feeds and gather any intel from the community that might be useful." Jenny agreed, her dedication evident in her focused expression. "I'll set up additional cameras around key points and start interviewing some of the more observant residents. Someone must have noticed something unusual." As they began to plan their next moves, Ethan couldn't help but feel a sense of camaraderie and purpose. He was no longer just a farmer. He was part of a team dedicated to protecting Willow Creek from the encroaching darkness of the Blackthorn Syndicate. Their combined skills and shared commitment to justice gave him hope that they could dismantle the Syndicate's operations and restore peace to their community. Hours passed as they worked tirelessly, piecing together the fragmented intelligence and coordinating their efforts. By midday, they had identified several potential hotspots where the Syndicate might be operating, including a disused warehouse on the outskirts of town that matched the description of the shipment's destination. Ethan knew that time was running out. The next 48 hours would be crucial in determining whether they could prevent the Syndicate from solidifying its foothold in Willow Creek. He reviewed his surveillance feeds one last time, ensuring that all systems were functioning optimally and that there were no blind spots in their coverage. As he prepared to leave the cafe, a sense of urgency settled over him. The Harvest Festival, a beloved tradition in Willow Creek, was just a week away. It was the perfect cover for the Syndicate's operations, providing a bustling environment where their movements could go unnoticed amidst the festivities. Ethan knew that if they could disrupt the Syndicate's plans during the festival, it would send a clear message that Willow Creek was not to be trifled with. Driving home, Ethan's thoughts were a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. He considered the possible reactions of the Syndicate and how best to counter their moves without exposing his true identity. The balance between maintaining his farmer facade and executing covert operations was delicate, but Ethan was determined to protect his community at all costs. Back at the farmhouse, he deactivated the surveillance feeds and entered his command center, a hidden room behind a false wall in the barn. Multiple monitors displayed live feeds from cameras across Willow Creek, each one meticulously monitored for any signs of syndicate activity. Ethan's fingers danced over the keyboard, running through final checks and ensuring that every piece of equipment was ready for the impending confrontation. As night fell, the farm was cloaked in darkness, the only light emanating from the strategically placed security lights and the soft glow of the surveillance monitors. Ethan sat in front of the main screen, his mind focused and alert. The seeds of suspicion had been planted, and it was now time to cultivate them into action. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Ethan was resolute. He would use his skills and experience to root out the corruption threatening Willow Creek, ensuring that justice prevailed and the community remained safe. The Harvest Festival loomed on the horizon, a beacon of hope and tradition, but also a potential battleground for the forces of good and evil. Ethan knew that the coming days would test him like never before, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With his allies by his side and his unwavering commitment to justice, Ethan Cole was prepared to defend his home and expose the darkness that sought to consume it. Ethan Cole woke before dawn, the first light of morning barely touching the horizon. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew-covered grass and the promise of a new day. He stretched, feeling the weight of the past 8 years settle comfortably on his broad shoulders. Today was different. The pieces were falling into place, and he knew he was closer than ever to dismantling the Blackthorn Syndicate's operations in Willow Creek. As he prepared his morning coffee, Ethan's mind replayed the events of the previous day. The Iron Viper's aggressive stance confirmed his suspicions that the Syndicate was tightening its grip on the town, using the upcoming Harvest Festival as a cover for their illicit activities. After sipping his coffee, Ethan made his way to his secure office hidden within the barn. The room was a testament to his meticulous planning. Multiple monitors displayed live feeds from cameras strategically placed around Willow Creek, and stacks of classified documents were neatly organized on his desk. He sat down, logging into his encrypted system, and reviewed the intelligence reports he had gathered over the past months. The Syndicate's movements were becoming more coordinated, their operations more sophisticated. It was clear they were preparing for something significant, and Ethan was determined to intercept them before they could execute their plans. Ethan's first priority was to investigate the possibility of corruption within the town's authorities. He had a hunch that someone within the local law enforcement was compromised, aiding the Syndicate's efforts to maintain control over Willow Creek. The latest surveillance data pointed to Sheriff Daniel Hayes, a respected figure in the community known for his unwavering dedication to upholding the law. However, subtle discrepancies in Hayes' activities suggested otherwise. Ethan decided it was time to confront this suspicion head-on. He reached out to Laura Mitchell, his trusted former intelligence officer and confidant. Laura had retired to Willow Creek a few years ago, seeking the same peace that Ethan now enjoyed, but she had never forgotten her skills or her commitment to justice. Their past collaborations had been invaluable, and Ethan knew he could rely on her expertise to navigate the murky waters of local corruption. "Laura, we need to talk," Ethan said as she arrived at Jenny's Cafe, a beloved establishment that served as their informal intelligence hub. The cafe was bustling with early morning activity, but the trio found a secluded corner to discuss their next moves. Laura listened intently as Ethan laid out his findings, her sharp eyes never leaving his face. "I've been tracking Sheriff Hayes' movements," Ethan began. "There are too many late-night meetings, unexplained absences during patrols, and he's been diverting funds without proper documentation. It doesn't add up." Laura nodded thoughtfully. "If he's compromised, we need concrete evidence before making any accusations. Otherwise, we risk alienating the community and giving the Syndicate more leverage." Ethan agreed, but time was running out. The Harvest Festival was only a week away, and the Syndicate was likely planning a major operation during the event. They needed to act swiftly and discreetly to gather the necessary proof without tipping off the corrupt sheriff or the Iron Vipers. Their next move was to enlist the help of Sophie Ramirez, a young, tech-savvy journalist who had proven herself adept at uncovering hidden truths and exposing corruption. Sophie was known for her relentless pursuit of the story and her ability to connect with sources that others couldn't reach. Ethan and Laura arranged a meeting with her, explaining the delicate situation and the importance of her role in their plan. We need someone on the inside who can access Sheriff Hayes' records and monitor his communications, Laura explained. Sophie, your skills are exactly what we need to dig deeper into his activities. Sophie, always eager for a challenge, agreed without hesitation. I can start by reviewing public records and cross-referencing them with the surveillance data you've collected. If Sheriff Hayes is hiding something, I'll find it. With Sophie on board, the team began their investigation in earnest. They split their tasks efficiently. Ethan continued to monitor syndicate movements, Laura worked on intercepting and decrypting any encrypted communications, and Sophie delved into Sheriff Hayes' financial and professional records. Days turned into nights as they pieced together the puzzle, uncovering layers of deceit that connected the sheriff directly to the Blackthorn syndicate. One evening, as Ethan was reviewing the latest surveillance footage, he noticed a pattern in Hayes' movements. The sheriff was meeting with a known syndicate associate at a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of town. The timing of these meetings coincided with significant shifts in the syndicate's operations, further solidifying Ethan's suspicions. Laura, Sophie, come take a look at this, Ethan called out, motioning them over to his screen. The footage clearly showed Sheriff Hayes exchanging envelopes with the associate, their faces obscured by the darkness of the warehouse. It was undeniable evidence of corruption. Laura frowned, her mind racing with implications. This is the smoking gun we needed. But we can't act on this alone. We need to involve higher authorities without raising Hayes' suspicions. Ethan contemplated their options. Direct confrontation could be dangerous, but allowing the corruption to continue would enable the syndicate to tighten their control even further. He decided to escalate the matter to federal authorities discreetly, ensuring that their intervention wouldn't tip off Hayes or the syndicate. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Ethan coordinated with federal agents who were already aware of the Blackthorn syndicate's operations but needed concrete evidence to take decisive action. The team worked around the clock, aligning their efforts to coincide with the Harvest Festival, which was expected to be the syndicate's biggest operation yet. As the festival drew near, tensions in Willow Creek were palpable. The town was abuzz with preparations, unaware of the impending showdown that would determine its fate. Ethan felt the pressure mounting, knowing that every decision he made could have significant repercussions for the community he loved. One evening, while the team was finalizing their plans, Sophie made a shocking discovery. One of Ethan's trusted allies, a longtime farmhand named Tommy, had been communicating with the syndicate under a false identity. Tommy had been feeding them information about Ethan's movements and the team's strategies, betraying the trust that Ethan had placed in him. The revelation hit Ethan like a ton of bricks. He had considered Tommy a friend, someone who shared his commitment to Willow Creek's prosperity. Confronting him was a delicate matter, but Ethan knew he couldn't let the betrayal go unchecked. He arranged a private meeting with Tommy at Jenny's cafe, where the truth would have to come out. Tommy arrived, looking nervous and guilty. "Ethan, I can explain," he pleaded, his eyes darting around the room as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. Ethan remained calm, though his heart pounded with a mix of anger and disappointment. "Tommy, why did you do it? Why are you working with the Iron Vipers?" Tommy hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. "They threatened my family. I didn't have a choice. They said they'd hurt them if I didn't cooperate." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy, understanding the fear and desperation that had driven Tommy to betray him. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, but this isn't the way. We can help you. Let us protect your family without you having to compromise your integrity." Tommy looked up, tears welling in his eyes. "Do you really think that's possible?" Ethan nodded firmly. "Yes, but you have to trust us. We need to gather more evidence to bring the syndicate down and ensure your family is safe." With Tommy's reluctant cooperation, the team gained a crucial insider who provided them with additional intelligence on the syndicate's plans. This new information was vital for their strategy to intercept the syndicate's operations during the Harvest Festival. Ethan felt a renewed sense of determination, knowing that every setback only made their resolve stronger. As the Harvest Festival approached, Ethan, Laura, Sophie, and Tommy worked tirelessly to prepare. They coordinated with federal agents, setting up surveillance and establishing a network of informants within the town. The community remained blissfully unaware of the impending conflict, their focus solely on celebrating the harvest and enjoying the fruits of their labor. On the day of the festival, Willow Creek was a picture of prosperity and joy. Colorful stalls lined the streets, filled with an array of goods and the cheerful chatter of townsfolk. The scent of baked goods and fresh produce permeated the air, masking the undercurrent of tension that Ethan and his team felt. As evening descended, the true nature of the festival's activities began to unfold. The Blackthorn Syndicate, led by Marcus Thompson, initiated their plan to smuggle a large shipment of advanced weaponry through Willow Creek. The team's preparation paid off as they intercepted the shipment, leading to a tense standoff between the Syndicate's operatives and the federal agents who had arrived to assist Ethan's team. The confrontation was intense but controlled. Ethan's military training allowed him to navigate the chaos with precision, neutralizing threats without unnecessary violence. Laura and Sophie provided real-time intelligence, coordinating with the agents to ensure that every move was strategic and effective. Tommy, though shaken by his betrayal, played a crucial role in guiding the team through the Syndicate's operations, leveraging his insider knowledge to dismantle their plans piece by piece. In the heat of the moment, Ethan faced Marcus Thompson directly. The two had a history that went back years, each representing opposing sides of a battle for Willow Creek's soul. "It's over, Marcus," Ethan declared, his voice steady and authoritative. "You can't keep terrorizing this town without facing the consequences." Thompson snarled, his eyes filled with a mix of rage and desperation. "You think you can stop us, Cole? This is bigger than you or me. The Blackthorn Syndicate won't be dismantled so easily." Ethan responded calmly, drawing on his deep reservoir of experience and resolve. "The community stands with me. We won't let fear dictate our lives anymore. It's time to put an end to your reign of terror." With the support of the federal agents and the unwavering determination of his team, Ethan managed to overpower Thompson and his remaining operatives. The shipment was successfully intercepted, and the Syndicate's influence in Willow Creek was significantly weakened. The Harvest Festival ended on a high note, with the town unaware of the undercurrents that had nearly torn it apart. As the dust settled, Ethan reflected on the journey so far. The betrayal by Tommy had been a painful reminder of the lengths the Syndicate would go to maintain their control, but it had also strengthened his resolve to protect Willow Creek at all costs. He knew that dismantling the Blackthorn Syndicate was only the beginning. There were deeper roots of deception that still needed to be uncovered and eradicated. In the quiet aftermath of the festival, Ethan gathered his team for a debriefing. "We've made significant progress today," he began, his voice filled with both exhaustion and triumph. "But the Blackthorn Syndicate is still out there, and they won't stop easily. We need to stay vigilant and continue our efforts to expose and dismantle their operations." Laura nodded, her expression resolute. "We've exposed their activities during the festival, but we need to dig deeper into their connections. There are higher levels of corruption that we haven't uncovered yet." Sophie added, "I've already started compiling the evidence we've gathered. Once we have everything, we can present it to federal oversight committees to ensure that no one else can manipulate or control communities like we almost did." Tommy, now fully committed to the cause, spoke up. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help take them down. I owe it to everyone who's been hurt by their actions." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on Tommy's shoulder. "Your cooperation is invaluable, Tommy. Together, we can make sure that Willow Creek remains a safe and peaceful place for everyone." As night fell over Willow Creek, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The seeds of suspicion had blossomed into actionable intelligence, and the roots of deception that had threatened the town were beginning to wither under the combined efforts of a dedicated team. But Ethan knew that the battle was far from over. The Blackthorn Syndicate was a formidable foe, with connections that reached far beyond the borders of Willow Creek. To truly protect his community, Ethan would have to uncover the full extent of the Syndicate's operations and bring every member to justice. With unwavering determination, Ethan vowed to continue his fight against the darkness that sought to consume Willow Creek. The Harvest Festival had been a pivotal moment, but the true battle for the town's soul was just beginning. As he looked out over his land, Ethan knew that he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, standing as the silent guardian of Willow Creek's peace and prosperity. The sun began its descent over Willow Creek, casting long, amber rays that danced across the town's bustling streets. The annual Harvest Festival was in full swing, a cherished tradition that brought the community together in celebration of the season's bounty. Colorful stalls lined the main street, adorned with vibrant produce, handmade crafts, and the enticing aroma of freshly baked goods. Lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, their soft glow illuminating the joyful faces of townsfolk and visitors alike. Ethan Cole stood near his empty farmer's market stall, his eyes scanning the crowd with practiced vigilance. The past week had been a whirlwind of activity, uncovering corruption, intercepting syndicate operations, and rallying his allies to protect Willow Creek. The Harvest Festival was the culmination of his efforts, a perfect opportunity for the Blackthorn Syndicate to execute their most ambitious plan yet. Ethan knew that the Syndicate would attempt to use the festival's chaos as cover for their illicit activities, and he was determined to thwart them. Laura Mitchell and Sophie Ramirez were by his side, each playing their crucial roles in the operation. Laura had been instrumental in gathering intelligence on Sheriff Hayes' corruption, while Sophie's investigative skills had uncovered the Syndicate's deeper connections. Together, they formed a formidable team dedicated to safeguarding their community from the shadows that sought to undermine it. As the evening progressed, Ethan received a discreet signal from Tommy, their insider who had recently defected from the Syndicate. The message was clear. The Syndicate was mobilizing for a major arms shipment that night, disguised as part of the festival's entertainment. The shipment was set to arrive at the old Miller warehouse, a location now transformed into a temporary event space for the festival's grand finale. "We need to move quickly," Ethan whispered to Laura and Sophie, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "The Syndicate's shipment is the key to their operation. If we can intercept it, we can cripple their network here in Willow Creek." Laura nodded, pulling up the coordinates on her tablet. "I've already alerted the federal agents. They'll be here to support us. We just need to ensure that everything goes according to plan." Sophie tapped into the festival security feeds, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she sifted through the surveillance footage. "I've got eyes on the Miller warehouse. It's heavily guarded, but there are weak points we can exploit. Marcus Thompson won't expect us to target the arms shipment directly. We need to create a diversion." Ethan considered their options carefully. A direct assault could tip off the Syndicate, but a strategic diversion might allow them to intercept the shipment without raising immediate alarms. He decided on a two-pronged approach. Laura would coordinate with the federal agents to secure the perimeter, while Sophie and Tommy would create a distraction to draw the Syndicate's attention away from the warehouse. As the festival reached its peak, with fireworks illuminating the night sky and laughter filling the air, the team sprang into action. Laura, armed with the latest intelligence, directed the federal agents to key locations around the warehouse, establishing a secure perimeter to prevent any escape. Sophie and Tommy, utilizing their insider knowledge, orchestrated a series of minor disturbances throughout the festival grounds, diverting the Syndicate's operatives to quell the chaos they had intentionally created. Ethan, leveraging his military training, moved stealthily towards the Miller warehouse, his movements calculated and precise. He knew that time was of the essence. Each passing minute increased the risk of the Syndicate completing their arms shipment. As he approached the warehouse, he could hear the faint hum of activity inside, the sound of crates being moved and loaded onto concealed vehicles. Inside the warehouse, Marcus "Razor" Thompson was overseeing the final preparations of the shipment. His eyes darted around the room, ensuring that every detail was in place. Ethan knew that confronting Thompson directly could lead to a dangerous showdown, so he opted for a more strategic approach. Utilizing the surveillance equipment he had planted earlier, Ethan accessed the warehouse's internal systems, disrupting the Syndicate's communication channels and causing confusion among the operatives. Suddenly, alarms began to blare, and the Syndicate members scrambled to regain control. Marcus Thompson, realizing something was amiss, turned towards the source of the disturbance. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded, his frustration evident in his voice. Before Thompson could react, Ethan made his presence known. "It's over, Marcus," he declared, stepping into the warehouse's central area. The sudden confrontation sent a ripple of tension through the room, the Syndicate members frozen in shock at the sight of the seemingly unassuming farmer standing before them. Thompson's face twisted in anger. "You think you can stop us, Cole? This is bigger than you or me." The Blackthorn Syndicate won't be dismantled so easily. Ethan remained calm, his eyes unwavering as he faced his adversary. The community stands with me. We won't let fear dictate our lives anymore. It's time to put an end to your reign of terror. With swift precision, Ethan activated the concealed surveillance drones he had deployed earlier, illuminating the warehouse and exposing the syndicate's operations to the federal agents who had arrived to support him. The combination of Ethan's strategic disruption and the federal response left the syndicate members with little room to maneuver. Thompson, realizing the futility of his position, attempted to flee, but Ethan was faster, using his combat training to neutralize the threat without unnecessary violence. As the federal agents moved in to secure the premises, Thompson was apprehended, his plans unraveling before his eyes. The shipment was successfully intercepted, and the syndicate's influence in Willow Creek was significantly weakened. The Harvest Festival, despite the underlying tension, continued to flourish, the community unaware of the near-catastrophic events that had transpired just steps away from their celebration. In the aftermath, Ethan gathered his team for a debriefing, the weight of their success evident on their faces. "We've made significant progress today," he began, his voice filled with both exhaustion and triumph. "But the Blackthorn Syndicate is still out there, and they won't stop easily. We need to stay vigilant and continue our efforts to expose and dismantle their operations." Laura nodded, her expression resolute. "We've exposed their activities during the festival, but we need to dig deeper into their connections. There are higher levels of corruption that we haven't uncovered yet." Sophie added, "I've already started compiling the evidence we've gathered. Once we have everything, we can present it to federal oversight committees to ensure that no one else can manipulate or control communities like we almost did." Tommy, now fully committed to the cause, spoke up. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help take them down. I owe it to everyone who's been hurt by their actions." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on Tommy's shoulder. "Your cooperation is invaluable, Tommy. Together, we can make sure that Willow Creek remains a safe and peaceful place for everyone." As night enveloped Willow Creek, Ethan felt a renewed sense of purpose. The Harvest Festival had been a pivotal moment, showcasing both the town's resilience and the lengths to which the syndicate would go to maintain control. But with each step they took, the team was dismantling the syndicate's operations, piece by piece, bringing justice to a community that had almost fallen under the shadow of corruption and fear. Ethan knew that their fight was far from over. The Blackthorn Syndicate was a formidable adversary, with connections that reached beyond Willow Creek. But with the support of his allies and the unwavering dedication to justice, Ethan was prepared to continue his mission. The roots of deception had been exposed, but there were still deeper layers to uncover. As he looked out over the festival grounds, now calm and peaceful once more, Ethan vowed to protect his community from the shadows that sought to undermine it, ensuring that Willow Creek would remain a beacon of hope and resilience for years to come. Ethan Cole sat in his secure command center, the hum of surveillance equipment a constant reminder of the battle that had been waged and the war still to come. The events of the Harvest Festival had marked a significant victory against the Blackthorn Syndicate, but Ethan knew this was merely the tip of the iceberg. The captured Marcus Razor Thompson had revealed fragments of a much larger conspiracy, hinting at connections that extended far beyond Willow Creek. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the tranquil town, Ethan reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The Blackthorn Syndicate was not an isolated criminal organization. It was part of an extensive network with ties to powerful figures within government and military circles. The depth of their infiltration was staggering, and dismantling it required more than just local efforts. It demanded coordinated action on a national scale. Ethan reached out to his trusted ally, Laura Mitchell, who had been instrumental in uncovering Sheriff Daniel Hayes' corruption. Their previous successes had forged a bond of mutual respect and unwavering trust. Laura arrived at the command center promptly, her sharp eyes scanning the latest data with practiced precision. "Ethan," Laura greeted, her voice steady despite the gravity of their situation, "I've been analyzing the information Thompson provided. It confirms that the Blackthorn Syndicate is backed by high-ranking officials within the Department of Defense. We're dealing with a deeply entrenched network." Ethan leaned forward, his expression serious. "We need to take this to the federal level. If Blackthorn has connections this deep, local authorities alone won't be enough to bring them down. Before Laura could respond, Sophie Ramirez entered the room, her laptop in tow. I've cross-referenced the syndicate's financial transactions with known offshore accounts. There are significant sums being funneled through shell companies registered in several states. It looks like they're funding their operations nationwide. Tommy, now fully committed to their cause, joined the discussion. I managed to infiltrate one of their smaller cells. They're using legitimate businesses as fronts to launder money and distribute weapons. We need to expose these operations before they expand further. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of their mission intensify. We need to compile all this evidence and present it to federal oversight committees. But we have to be careful. The deeper connections mean that there are likely more people within our town, and possibly beyond, who are compromised. Laura tapped her finger against her temple, deep in thought. There's one more thing. During my investigation into Sheriff Hayes, I discovered irregularities in his service records. It appears he might have had direct orders from higher-ups to facilitate the syndicate's activities. If we can trace these orders, we can dismantle their entire operation. Ethan's mind raced. The implications were profound. We need to act swiftly. The longer we wait, the more entrenched they become. I'll reach out to federal agents and request a covert operation team to assist us. We can't do this alone. As the team worked late into the night, piecing together the intricate web of corruption and criminal activity, a sense of urgency settled over them. The Blackthorn Syndicate was not just a local threat. It was a national security issue that required immediate intervention. The following morning, Ethan received an encrypted message from a contact within the federal intelligence community. The message was brief, but carried the weight of assurance. Operation Clean Slate approved. Team Alpha will coordinate with your unit. Relief washed over Ethan. The involvement of federal agents meant that their efforts would gain the necessary traction to challenge the syndicate's deep-rooted connections. However, it also meant that the operation was now under the scrutiny of highly skilled and resourceful adversaries. Ethan convened a meeting with his team at Jenny's Cafe, the familiar setting now serving as their strategic planning hub. The atmosphere was tense but determined, each member aware of the pivotal role they played in the impending confrontation. We've received confirmation from federal intelligence, Ethan began, addressing Laura, Sophie, and Tommy. Team Alpha is on board and will be assisting us in our efforts to take down the Blackthorn Syndicate. This is our chance to strike at the heart of their operations and expose the corruption that has allowed them to thrive. Laura shared her screen, displaying a network map of the syndicate's operations. Here are the key nodes we've identified. These locations are heavily guarded and likely serve as major distribution points. With the federal team's support, we can launch simultaneous strikes to cripple their infrastructure. Sophie interjected, her fingers moving rapidly over her laptop. I've set up additional surveillance and data feeds to monitor any suspicious activities. We need to ensure that our movements remain undetected until the strike is executed. Tommy nodded, his resolve evident. I've secured safe houses for our agents and established communication protocols to maintain secrecy during the operation. We're ready to move as soon as we get the go-ahead. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of their mission settle upon him. This is it. We've come too far to turn back now. Tomorrow night, during the peak of the Harvest Festival, we strike. We take down the syndicate's operations, expose the corruption, and restore peace to Willow Creek. As the team dispersed to finalize their preparations, Ethan felt a surge of determination. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but he knew that together, they had the strength and resilience to overcome any obstacle. The Harvest Festival, once a symbol of community and celebration, was now the stage for their final showdown against the forces of darkness. That evening, as Willow Creek bathed in the glow of lanterns and the sounds of laughter filled the air, Ethan stood on his porch, watching the townsfolk revel in the festivities. Beneath the surface of joyous celebration lay a battleground where justice and corruption would collide. With each passing moment, the roots of deception were being uncovered, and the branches of betrayal were being severed one by one. Ethan knew that the coming days would test them like never before, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For Willow Creek, for his community, and for the principles of justice and integrity he held dear, Ethan Cole was prepared to fight until the very end. The early morning sun cast a warm, golden glow over Willow Creek, its rays gently illuminating the town that had become both Ethan Cole's sanctuary and battleground. The Harvest Festival, once a symbol of community and celebration, had transformed into the stage for the final act in Ethan's relentless pursuit of justice. As the town slowly awoke, preparations for the day's events were in full swing, oblivious to the monumental showdown about to unfold beneath their feet. Ethan stood on his porch, surveying the scene with a mixture of anticipation and resolve. The previous days had been a whirlwind of strategic planning, covert operations, and alliances forged in the heat of battle against the Blackthorn Syndicate. Now, with the support of federal agents and his dedicated team, Laura Mitchell, Sophie Ramirez, and Tommy, the time had come to dismantle the Syndicate's remaining operations and expose the corruption that had tainted Willow Creek. Inside the command center, Ethan reviewed the final details of their plan. The Blackthorn Syndicate, led by the formidable General Victoria Blackwood, had been working tirelessly to establish a private military force, leveraging their criminal enterprises to fund and sustain their ambitions. Their ultimate goal was to exert control over civilian populations without official oversight, creating a network of influence that extended far beyond Willow Creek. "Everything is set for the operation," Laura reported, her eyes fixed on the array of monitors displaying live feeds from key locations around town. "Federal Team Alpha is in position, and all communication channels are secure. We have real-time updates on Blackthorn's movements." Sophie nodded, her fingers deftly navigating her laptop. "I've infiltrated their internal communications. General Blackwood is consolidating her forces at the old mill on the outskirts of town. That's where we need to strike." Tommy, ever the vigilant insider, provided the final pieces of intel. "There are multiple checkpoints around the mill, guarded by their most trusted operatives. But with the federal team's support, we can overwhelm them and secure the facility without significant casualties." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon him. "Remember, our goal is to neutralize the threat and gather irrefutable evidence against Blackwood and her network. We need to ensure that every move we make is precise and calculated." As the day progressed, the Harvest Festival blossomed into a vibrant display of community spirit. Stalls adorned with colorful produce, handmade crafts, and delectable treats lined the main street, while children played games and families enjoyed the festivities. The atmosphere was one of joy and unity, a stark contrast to the undercurrent of tension that Ethan and his team felt. At precisely noon, the team moved into action. Ethan, Laura, Sophie, and Tommy coordinated seamlessly with Federal Team Alpha, launching a synchronized assault on the Blackthorn Syndicate's operations. Their first target was the armory housed within the old mill, a facility fortified with state-of-the-art security systems and guarded by the Syndicate's elite forces. Using the intelligence gathered over the past weeks, Ethan led the team through a series of strategic maneuvers. They bypassed initial checkpoints with the aid of forged credentials and advanced surveillance equipment, ensuring their movements remained undetected until the moment of intervention. Sophie's real-time data analysis and Tommy's insider knowledge proved invaluable in navigating the labyrinthine layout of the mill. Inside the armory, General Blackwood stood surrounded by her top lieutenants, her presence commanding and unyielding. She was a striking figure, her sharp features and steely gaze reflecting years of strategic warfare and unrelenting ambition. Ethan approached her with a calm yet authoritative demeanor, his military training evident in every measured step. "General Blackwood," Ethan began, his voice steady, "your reign of terror ends here." Blackwood's eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger and defiance crossing her face. "Ethan Cole, I expected a different outcome, but you've been a persistent thorn in our side." Before the confrontation could escalate, federal agents burst into the room, surrounding Blackwood and her operatives. The clash was swift and controlled, with Ethan and his team using their training to neutralize threats without unnecessary violence. General Blackwood, realizing the futility of her situation, attempted to flee, but Ethan was quicker, utilizing a non-lethal restraint device to subdue her. As the operation concluded, Laura and Sophie worked diligently to secure all evidence, including classified documents and digital records that exposed the full extent of the Syndicate's corruption. Federal agents began apprehending the remaining operatives, ensuring that no loose ends remained. Back at the command center, the team reviewed the gathered evidence. The data unequivocally linked Blackwood and her network to high-ranking officials within various government agencies, revealing a web of corruption that had facilitated the syndicate's rise to power. This evidence was crucial for ensuring that the entire operation would be exposed and dismantled beyond repair. With the immediate threat neutralized, Ethan addressed his team, his voice filled with a sense of accomplishment and relief. "We've done it. The Blackthorn Syndicate is dismantled, and their corrupt connections are exposed. Willow Creek is safe once more, thanks to each of you." Laura smiled, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and pride. "We couldn't have done it without your leadership, Ethan. This is a monumental victory for justice and integrity." Sophie nodded, her determination evident. "I've already started compiling the evidence for federal oversight committees. This will ensure that such corruption can never take root again, not just here, but anywhere the syndicate's influence reached." Tommy, though shaken by his betrayal and involvement, stood tall. "I'm just glad I could help take them down. I owe my family and this town everything." As the team celebrated their hard-fought victory, the community of Willow Creek began to process the events that had unfolded. The Harvest Festival continued, now imbued with a deeper sense of resilience and unity. The townsfolk rallied around Ethan and his team, grateful for their unwavering commitment to protecting their home. In the days that followed, federal authorities launched comprehensive investigations into the syndicate's operations, ensuring that every corrupt official was held accountable. Media outlets picked up the story, highlighting the bravery and determination of Ethan and his allies in combating the pervasive corruption that had threatened their community. Ethan found himself hailed as a local hero, though he remained humble, always aware of the personal sacrifices that had been made along the way. He took solace in the fact that Willow Creek was now free from the shadows that had once loomed over it, and that justice had prevailed through the combined efforts of a dedicated team. One evening, as Ethan walked through his fields under the setting sun, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The duality of his life, a peaceful farmer and a seasoned operative, had been a delicate balance, but it had ultimately allowed him to protect his community from the insidious forces that sought to undermine it. He stopped to watch the vibrant colors of the sunset, feeling a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. The Harvest Festival had not only provided for the town's bounty, but had also served as the catalyst for exposing and dismantling a dangerous network of corruption and criminality. The roots of deception had been severed, and the branches of betrayal had been uprooted, leaving Willow Creek to thrive in the light of truth and unity. As night descended, Ethan returned to his farmhouse, greeted by the warm smiles and heartfelt gratitude of his neighbors. Ruth Whitaker approached him, a casserole in hand, and placed it gently on his porch. "This is for you, Ethan. We're all so grateful for everything you've done." Ethan accepted the gesture with a humble nod. "Thank you, Ruth. It's all thanks to you and everyone's support." Inside, the farmhouse was filled with the comforting aroma of home-cooked meals and the sounds of quiet conversations. Ethan sat down at the dining table, surrounded by his team and the townsfolk who had become like family. They shared stories of resilience, hope, and the unwavering spirit that had carried them through the darkest of times. As the evening wore on, Ethan felt a sense of closure and peace wash over him. The battle had been arduous, but the triumph of justice and the strength of community had prevailed. Willow Creek was no longer a target but a beacon of hope, a testament to what could be achieved when individuals came together to protect what they held dear. In the quiet moments before sleep, Ethan gazed out of his bedroom window at the star-studded sky, reflecting on the lessons learned and the bonds forged through adversity. He knew that challenges would inevitably arise in the future, but he also understood that the spirit of Willow Creek, its unity, resilience, and commitment to justice, would endure. Ethan smiled softly, the legacy of his efforts evident in the thriving town he had fought so hard to protect. The harvest of shadows had come to an end, and with it, a new chapter of peace and prosperity had begun for Willow Creek. As he drifted into sleep, Ethan felt a profound sense of accomplishment, knowing that he had fulfilled his mission and ensured a brighter future for his community.